Hello, scholars. Welcome, welcome, welcome.
Hi,
Hello.
Hey,
Hello. How are you guys?
good. How about you?
Good. Excited for this beautiful day. Spring has definitely sprung. Hi, Shania. How you doing?
I'm doing good.
Good. Good to see you. All right. So we are going to wait for we do give a little bit of a grace period, 5 minutes. So we'll give a little bit more time for our scholars to join in. And then we'll make some announcements and then we'll get right into it.
I tell you, with this spring too, that pollen has said hello.
Yes, I'm spraying my nose every morning. Every morning.
Nice spring and what summer combination greeting. Spring actually. Summer not yet, but feels like it out here though.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-mm.
Mr. Marriott, where are you and your wife located?
We're in Burlington, New Jersey. Well, we're transitioning to Burlington. Let's put it that way, because I'm in
Oh,
Burlington. She's in Middletown, Pennsylvania. So we're still getting some things done to the house. We got a contract that's supposed to be starting in here next week. Because of course, she was like, "Babe, I want the bathroom updated." And my catchphrase, "Yes, dear, yes."
understood, understood. So now is that Burlington, New Jersey or Burlington County?
It's New Jersey. It's really weird. I'm in Mount Holly, so I'm about
Oh, okay.
15 minutes away from the base.
Okay. Yeah, I know exactly where I was actually in Cherry Hill for
Okay.
work on Tuesday. We have an office down there. And then my parents live in Willingboro.
Oh, okay.
So, yeah, I
That's
know
where our church
exactly where you
is.
are. Oh, nice.
You
Oh,
know
is
the
that where you got married? The
yes,
Delaware?
Del Val Baptist
Oh,
Church. Yes.
nice. Very Rosie filled me in. She updated me on your beautiful nuptials. So I remember her saying that. Oh, what so my parents live on right off of Beverly Rancocas.
Okay. Yes. That's right there.
Yeah, right there. Oh, such a small world. Very, very small
Mhm.
world. All right, we'll give them one more minute.
Mm. Oh, man, let's just see that.
All right, it is 6:35. So we are going to jump right in. We're going to get started. And then as our scholars come in, they will just hop on into the process. So good evening. Good evening. As you know, I am Miss Latoya. I am one of the directors of our Business and Entrepreneurship Bootcamp series. This is the advanced block. We are joined by our very much esteemed Professor Mr. Mario. Would you like them to call you Professor Mario, Mr. Mario? What would you prefer?
Hmm. I would say, Mister. For some reason, I don't feel I'm at that professor stage yet. I feel like I need to aspire a little high, achieve a little bit more to get to that professor title.
Okay, well, you're definitely a professor in our eyes, but we will identify you however you feel most comfortable. So, scholars, it's Mr. Mario is going to dive into credit mindfulness. He has been doing this series with us since the very beginning. So this is our seventh series. So he's joining us for the seventh time. So really just excited to hear from him. As we've expressed in the last class, we always, as adults and directors on this call, we always learn something new, or we always get good reminders in this class to kind of up our game with credit. So just really take advantage of this opportunity because this is not something you would typically get in any other educational, mainstream educational setting. So please take advantage, have your listening ears on, ask tons of questions, be engaged, participate, really get the most out of this class. We're going to, we started strong, we're going to finish stronger, as our Miss Rosie always says. So please keep that in mind. We're halfway through the series, so let's just finish strong. Also wanted to make an announcement on behalf of Miss C. You do need to do your alignment assessment. I believe she said she's only received 2 of them so far. That was in the class reminder email that you would have received earlier today. So please go ahead and make sure you do that. All right. Any questions before we jump into our pretest for tonight?
Miss Latoya?
Yes.
I just wanted to let you know I was going to switch over from my phone to my laptop.
Okay,
So
sounds good.
I'll leave. Okay.
Okay, no problem. See you soon. All right, so I am pasting in the pre-test link. So once you get that link in the chat box, go ahead and click on that. As you know, the pre-test doesn't reveal the correct answers. You will see that in the post-test. So be mindful of what is on the pre-test, so that way you have an idea of what you'll see on the post-test. All right, so let me share my screen. I see the 2 of you are in there already. All right, 4 of you are in there. So we should have 6 scholars in there altogether.
Miss Latoya, can you hear me?
Yes. Yes,
I'm sorry,
I
can you
can.
please resend it because I wasn't here when you sent it?
Absolutely.
Thank you.
Sure thing.
I stuck it in there, Miss Latoya.
Oh, okay. Thank you. Okay, Winifred, I saw your message. But we look forward to your participation. All right, so there's 5 in there now. So we're waiting on one more person. Yes, Makai.
You said something about the alignment test.
There's an alignment assessment that Miss C would like you to prepare for your next class. She would like you to fill that out. So the next class would be next Tuesday. So you have pretty much over the weekend and next Monday to do that.
Wait, I don't see the email though.
Makai,
You-
you took it. So you're
I
good.
took it
Okay.
already.
Yeah, you did it. Thank you. You did it already.
Thank you.
All right, well, we're going to go ahead and get started. I don't want to take too much time. I only see 4 players in there, so please feel free to let me drop the link in there again in case some of you joined a little bit later. All right, so, okay, I see one more person joined. All right, the understanding of credit is based upon the understanding that you will pay later. Is this true or false? All right, so remember, there's no answers revealed in the pretest, okay? All right, all 6 of you are in there. Awesome. What are the 3 credit bureaus? So for this one, you will see 5 answers. You have to click on the 3 that you think are correct. And again, no It's going to show that all of them are correct because we will not reveal the correct answer. But that's the only way it'll give you the option to enter in 3 answers. Okay. Okay, name 3 items in your credit report. So again, same as the last time, all 6 options are going to show up as correct. And you just mark the correct 3 you feel.
Yeah, for that one, it just let me pick one.
For this one, really?
Yeah, for the ones that we just did back to back, it just let me pick one.
Oh, it's not supposed to do that. Okay, but thanks for letting me know.
Miss Latoya, I was gonna say that also happens on the post Menti test as well. You still can only pick one. There's not a 3 option.
That's really odd. Okay, I'll make sure that's fixed for the post. Thanks for letting me know. I didn't know that was the case for the post too. All right, how often can you get a free credit report? Okay, this is the last one. What is the first step to improve your credit score? Okay. All right. Thank you all for participating in that pre-test. And without further ado, I'm going to turn it over to Mr. Mario.
All right. Pleasure to be here. Pleasure to be here for these growing minds. Said I'm Mr. Mario Gray. I've been with this program for a few years now, and it's a pleasure every time. Pleasure every time to come out and expand and share the things that I've learned. One of the things that I like to tell them all, I'm in the United States Air Force as an intelligence analyst. I'm also a supervisor as a 911 dispatcher in my professional career. And I tell people I got interested in credit because of hard lessons that I learned. And, I wasn't somebody who just exclusively studied credit to become this professional. What happened is I learned some hard lessons. Then from those hard lessons, then I would take some class and things like that. And as I became comfortable with the things that I had learned, I wanted to share those because I don't think it's necessary for everybody to bump their head the same way that I bump my head. So my goal is to make you educated consumers, because you become the most powerful person when you have knowledge of something, because anybody just can't say anything to you without you having a base knowledge of it. Even if somebody says something and you just have, even if it's the baseline of it, you can be like, well, you said this and I have a question about that. It'll put them on guard because they know that, okay, you know a little something about it. I just can't double talk you and talk real fast and you not understand what I'm talking about. So that's my goal for this. Like I said, I got started into this. I saw a need to teach people and I just jumped right in. So before we get started, just wanted to ask y'all, do any of you, what are your favorite classes in school?
My favorite class in school?
Yes.
I like gym. I love math. And I love
Okay.
lunch.
All right. Good ones. All right.
Um,
Anybody else?
yeah, I like philosophy, I like language arts.
Okay.
And I like a little bit of math. Like sometimes, like most of the time, I like get onto it, but when they bring fractions and stuff, then that's where I'm a little on the edge with math. But I love math.
Okay.
I like that. I also like to.
Okay.
I'm not
What was
sure
Um,
that
what that
last class you
was.
mentioned? Because it broke up a little bit for me.
Yeah.
Humanities.
Okay. Humanities. Okay.
I was gonna say, I think right now my favorite class is chemistry.
Mm, deep. I like that. Is that everyone? Did everybody get a chance to go?
I think
No,
Shania has her hand up.
Ah, okay.
I like all my classes.
All right. All right. I will say I got one of my teachers in junior high school, Mr. Johnson. He made history interesting for me because I will say before him, I didn't find history interesting at all. Um, Spanish was one of my favorite classes as well because I have this goal. I still have this goal to this day to become fluent in Spanish. So you know, I know a little Spanish, but not to the point where I want to be at.
Yeah, I definitely want to be bilingual, become bilingual. That's a trait that I want to do. Like Creole.
Hmm.
I want to learn how to speak Creole. I want to
And
learn how
that's
to
the
speak.
thing. That's the thing. Even when you learn your base of that, just like what we're going to do in credit, you can conversate with people. You may not be completely 100% fluent, but you can sit up and you can understand some of the things that they're saying. And that's so important in life. And without further ado, I'm going to start sharing my screen.
Mr. Mario, Joel, I don't believe Joel went too.
Oh, okay. I'm sorry. Where are you at, Joel?
Right. I'll probably say economics and history too.
Mm, okay. Economics, I tell you, it comes into play so many times in life. The numbers. Right. I am going to share and then start my presentation for you. Okay. All right. Can everybody see my screen?
Yes.
yes.
Okay.
Yes.
All right. Again, this is called Credit Mindfulness. This is an overview of what we'll be doing, some credit basics, how to establish and monitor your credit, improving your credit. We're going to talk about why credit's important. That's going to feed into establishing some business credit and give you some examples of a savings plan and some budget strategies. Now, I know some of you have, actually, all of you, you've had a credit class earlier in the cohorts. So, my goal is that some of this is going to be a review. We're going to reinforce, and then we're also going to expand on a few topics. So by the end of this lesson, you'll be able to define what credit means. You're going to identify what credit is. We're going to talk about credit and debit cards, some strategies on how to monitor and improve your credit. And again, that business credit. So the first thing on what is credit? And the definition is, it says the ability to borrow money or access goods or services with the understanding that you will pay later. That's the big thing. They're giving you this up front, and they're having faith in you. So the main thing that I like to tell people how I equate your credit is basically your reputation. If you have a good reputation, then the banks or these services, they're willing to afford you their services, their loans, their cards, so that you can use it. And those credit, they're basing your credit or your reputation and what you're considered to be credit worthy or to have good credit. It's all the same thing. But like I said, reputation is the easy word for you to remember because everybody can remember it. It was always easy for me anyway to remember having a good reputation. Basically, my word is my bond. If what I say I'm going to do, that's what I'm going to do. And that's the attitude that we need to take when we're dealing with our credit. Now, this is how credit works. So at the bottom, I've listed those 3 credit bureaus. We have Experian, we have Equifax, and we have TransUnion. So the United States has these 3 bureaus, and they compile these large credit reports. Everything about us. It's so much information. We're going to get into the personal information and things that are in there. But they use those, it's so many equations they use to build up and find out whether you are credit worthy or not. Now, does anybody know what the range is from credit, the low number and the highest number that you can get?
I think the highest is like an 850.
That is it exactly.
And I think the lowest is like a 220 or something like that.
Close. Anybody else want to take a guess?
350.
300. 300 is your low that you can get. So that's a pretty good range of credit. And then we're going to break down in a later slide of what's considered bad credit, what's considered good, and what's considered very good. So this is the information where they're going to compile into that large credit report. Remember, those 3 bureaus, they're going to get into your personal information. So, you know, your address. Well, first thing is your name, your address, your credit history. You know, if you have taken out a loan here or there, if you have a credit card, the consumer statements, those credit inquiries, if you have tried to open up different accounts, those are going to be there. You know, public records and collection accounts. Collection accounts, we're hoping, is not a large part because collection accounts means that the person has some accounts that are not up to date. So when they're past the 30, 60, 90 days and you haven't made payments on them, then they go into collections, and that puts a little tarnish on you. So this breaks it down, you know, on everything that you'll see. Because now when you look at the reporting agencies, when you're pulling their credit reports, they're going to look slightly different. But those 6 areas are key because no matter how they line them up, and it may look a little differently to the eye, but they're all going to have that basic information in each credit report. Has any of you ever looked at a credit report before?
No.
It'll come later, but when you do, the reason why I like to show people, especially at a younger age, because if you're looking at it for the first time, it can seem a little bit overwhelming. But when you remember, when you're taking it step by step and you're looking, okay, this is my personal history, my personal information, this is my credit history, and you can just highlight each part to just make sure it is who it says it is. Because we'll talk about a little later on when you're doing credit disputes, because you want to make sure everything in that credit report where it says it's you want to make sure that it's actually you. So here's the example of how the ones from TransUnion looks. So again, it's going to start off, you know, John Doe. It has his information up there, his employer, his address. And that's important. I tell people, I remember when I pulled one of my credit reports a year, and it showed that I lived at an address in Virginia. I have never lived in Virginia in my entire life. So it was important that I contact the creditors to let them know, hey, this isn't me. And that can happen either by accident or on purpose. Someone can get attached to your credit report. Even when you're looking at the name, it's a simple name up there of John A. Doe. If that's your name and you look down later in the report and it shows a John D. Doe. So it shows you a John Donahue Doe. That's not your name. Your name is John Anthony Doe. So this is why it's important to look at those credit reports. This is the one from, hold up. That's the same one, TransUnion, that I clicked. Okay.
788, that's some good credit right there.
That is some good credit. And I will say too, the United States as a whole actually has been doing well. When I looked at the numbers from last year, what would you guess is the average credit score in the United States?
Like a 525.
Anybody else want to guess?
Like 600, 650 maybe?
Well, according to Experian, as of 2023, the average credit score in the United States of America is 715. So, and when I looked at the data from going back I think I looked back as far as 1990, it has been going steadily up. In 2022, it was at 714. So it only went up by a point, but it's still on a good scale. It's on a good way. So that tells me, at least in my hope, that people are becoming more mindful about their credit. They're becoming more educated about their credit. And that's the important thing. And that's the goal that we want everybody, because it's so important and it weighs in different parts of our lives. Even if you're not taking out a loan, we're going to show you some examples later on to where it can be your job, your employer, who is looking at your credit before they hire you. I work as an intelligence analyst in the Air Force. And that was one of the things they did. They pulled up my credit when they were looking at me for my job. And they questioned me about things in my credit, some things that I had forgotten completely about. And that's why it's important to look at your credit regularly. I would say at least every year. So when somebody's looking at your credit, you're not surprised because you already know what's there. And if there's something in there that you have to work on, you make a game plan, you figure out what you need to do, and you accomplish that goal. Hold up. All right. Now, after this one, I actually wanted to get into, before I get into my next part, does anybody have any questions on what we've discussed so far? Okay. So my next part, I want to play a little credit score game with you. So we're going to try and guess what happens to your credit score if you miss a credit card payment or pay off a loan. Different scenarios I like to do from the Wall Street Journal. One of the things that it was told to me, and very true lesson, very hard lesson, we control our actions, but we don't control the repercussions from those. So if we make a decision when we're talking about credit, if we make a decision that, you know what, I'm not going to pay this card for the next 6 months, we choose that action. But now what happens to us, we don't have any control over. Somebody else is going to control what happens to our score and how that affects us. So without further ado, we're going to start the game. and I'll need your help on this. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to pick a score. And it's going to give us a choice between picking a score of a 300, a 580, a 640, 700, 750, and 850, I believe. Oh, I'm sorry. My mistake. These are the choices it's going to give us. A 491 is the lowest they'll give us, and an 826 is the highest. Where do we want to start for our starting our score?
491.
No, 732.
Okay, so I've got one for 491 and one for 732. Any other votes?
I say 491.
With the 700,
Okay, so I've got 2 for 491 and 2 for 732.
You have 1 for 700 in the chat. Savon.
I don't have a 700 as an option. I only have a 730.
I mean, in the 700 range. I said it out. You're good.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm gonna go 491.
Oh, so that's 3. I think that's the majority then, 3. So let me read to you what it's telling you when we choose the 491. It says you have just one card and one auto loan opened within the past year, but you missed the car payment and you tend to max out your available credit. All right, so that's our scenario. Here we are at 491. Here's the first scenario. It says you're going to miss a credit card payment for the first time. Your credit score is going to drop, but by how much? So we're at 491. Where do you think the score is going to take us to?
450.
I heard 460.
Yeah.
Anybody else?
Maybe like
I
390.
think
450.
I think 400.
460, and I heard 390.
I
You think
think
400?
400.
I'm going to try to pick somewhere in the middle of that. All right. So I'm going to go down to 430. So the middle guess, so we're taking it down by 61 points. Now remember, we started off at 491, and we're missing just one credit card payment. So I think somebody did guess 390, somewhere in there. And they were really close. So remember that one credit card payment, it took us from a 491 to a 391. So on our next question, now on each scenario, we're starting back at 491 because we just want to see individually how these affect our scores. So on this one, your credit card company has given up on trying to collect payments and is sending your account to collections. How much will your score decrease?
415.
415. Anybody else?
I think it's still gonna be 391.
315.
315. All right, let me try to get in the middle of that. Ooh. Okay. I'm trying to get in the middle of your guesses here. So I picked the 370, taking us down 121 points when we check it. 323. Now remember, the lowest we can get is at 300. So if we're in the 300s, we have some work to do. We have some work to do if we want to improve our score. Now, mind you, all is not lost if you have a 323. It's a bad situation, but each bad situation we can overcome it. You just have to have a plan. First off, you have to have the knowledge, because you need to know, what do I need to do to get out of this? Then once you have that, you can start, building your plan and say, okay, here are the steps I need to take and the goals that I need to make to get this 300 to a 400, then get that 400 to a 500. And you can keep working at it till you can change that 300 to an 800. It will take some work, but you can get there. This is the next scenario here. Things have gone downhill and you're filing for bankruptcy. Now, I don't know. Let me explain bankruptcy just in case you're not aware. So all of your creditors, everybody that you owe money, besides the school loan, because school loan does not, they have some different rules that fall under where they won't excuse you for bankruptcy. But so if you have, different loans out, different credit cards, and you said, you know what, I can't pay any of your anything. I don't have nothing. I have no money to pay any of my creditors. So I'm filing bankruptcy, and basically they're just your creditors are going to be like writing on a chalkboard, and somebody's going to take the big eraser and wipe it away. But it's going to hurt. So anybody take a guess as to what our 491 will become?
I say 300.
300.
Yeah, 300 or less.
Yeah, I think 300 or less too.
All right. Now remember, 300 is the lowest we can go. So we bottom out. We hit the bottom of the well when we hit 300.
So you're going to be in a lot of debt, right?
Well, you actually won't be any debt because they're going to wipe it away. But it took us down to a 310. And what's going to happen when you have a 310? Now people, when you're looking to get a loan or get a credit card, they're not going to want to loan you money. They're not going to want you to give you the sort. If they do loan you the money, they're going to want to charge you the highest interest rate that they possibly can, which is going to cost you more money over the life of the loan. So instead of let's suppose you needed a car and you want to go out and get yourself, I'm going to say a Honda Civic because I have a Honda Civic and I like Hondas. So you want to go out and get yourself that new Honda Civic, and it's going to cost you $25,000 for this car. So most people I know do not have $25,000 sitting in the bank that they can just pay for a car out in cash. So they have to take out a loan. So if you have that 310 credit score, instead of them charging you, let's say 4% interest rate, they're probably going to be charging you somewhere closer to 20 or 25% interest because of a low credit score. So somebody with a good score, by the time they've paid off that car, they're going to pay a lot less money than a person with somebody with 310. And it's so important. It costs us money to have a bad credit score. And we're going to show some other things a little later as to other things that it also costs. So I already showed you how, my job with the Air Force, they were looking at my credit score because they wanted to see what kind of person I am, what kind of reputation I have. So my job was basically hinging on my reputation. And part of that reputation comes from the credit score. All right, so let's do another one. Well, I will get two more in before we'll take a break. We're almost to the midpoint. All right, so in this scenario, you can pay down most of your credit score, your credit card debt. So you're going to pay off your credit card debt and your score is going to go up. But by how much?
510, 520.
100.
Okay.
I say 580.
Let's
All
say
right.
640.
640. All right. So let's try to go this middle area in there. And let's check it. So we're choosing the 580. Let's see what we got. 632. And see, the scenario is stating that you can get your credit card debt down to 10% of your available credit. And that's going to be a key number when we'll talk about later, is when you're using your credit cards or your loans like that, a credit card especially, it's the easier scenario. How much of your credit card can you use without it being a negative thing? In fact, I'm actually going to let you guess. Give me some guess in there, and we'll go in percentage. 100%, 50%, 75, 10%, 20%. There is a magic number that they look at, and then they say, we don't want you to go above this number.
I think it's 20.
20? That's a good guess. Anybody else?
I think around 30.
Okay. Anybody else?
I think it was gonna be a 10 or 15%.
Okay. 30 is actually the right on the point number. And this was one of the lessons that I had to learn as a hard lesson, because I didn't know when I was younger. So, I had a credit card for $1,000. And if you're telling me I have a credit card for $1,000 in my mind, then I should be able to use all $1,000. You gave it to me, right? It's mine. So I want to use it all. But 30% is where they want me to be. So out of that 1,000, they expect me to use no more than 300 before it starts affecting me negatively. And God forbid if I attempt to overdraw. If I all of a sudden I'm trying to charge something and I'm up to $1,100, it's probably going to be denied anyway. But just the fact that I attempted to make those charges going over my credit limit, that's going to affect me in a very bad way that I'm going to have to work to dig myself up out of that hole. But 30% is going to be a number that you're going to want to remember for your future. When you're going through and you're saying, okay, when you're looking at your credit cards or your loans, more of the credit cards, because loans are more of a fixed number. But try to stay under that 30% if you even have to get up to that point. In an ideal world, whatever you're putting on a card, you want to be able to pay off in full by the end of the next month, so nobody can charge you any interest.
I have a
That's it.
question.
Yes.
The 30% is for your credit, or is it for something else?
30% is more like just a threshold, because it's the magic number for the credit card companies that they say you're doing good if you stay 30 and below. And so we're going to say that you still have a good reputation with us, and you're going to build up points with credit with us because you're making on-time payments and you're keeping your usage below 30%. If that answered your question. So just
Excuse me, did
try
you
not
say
to
anything
use.
on? I'm sorry. Did you say anything on interest for the credit card?
What I'm saying is on the interest of the credit card, in the ideal world. So let's suppose your credit card is charging you 15% interest. So let's suppose you charge $200 what's it, on May 2nd. And by June 2nd, your credit card company is going to apply that interest to you, or that interest rate that they're going to charge for the month. But if you send them in a payment, but let's suppose you get paid next week, and so you send them in that full $200, they're not going to be able to charge you any interest. So what'll happen is your credit will go up because you're utilizing your credit in a smart way. You're not using more than you can afford. You're paying it all off, and you're keeping the numbers well below 30%. If you're carrying a zero balance by the end of that billing period, the start of that next month. So even if let's suppose the interest rate was 50%, which it can't be 50%, but I'm just picking a very high number. If you're paying it all off by the end of the month, there's nothing for them to charge you any interest on. That's a good question, though. Any other questions?
Thank you.
I have a question. So
Sure.
the 30% is like the amount of like the total available credit that you're allowed to like use. So you have to use like 30% or
No,
below.
you're allowed to use 100%, but if you
Okay.
go more than 30%, that's when the creditor, whoever the credit card company is, they start to kind of side eye you a little bit because you're getting up a little bit higher, and they're saying, can Mario actually afford what he's doing, because his credit usage is getting higher than what we would like to be. So if I have that credit card that's $1,000 limit, and I'm staying around using $200, $300, they're good with that. I'm gonna build up points with them. Let's suppose by the end of this year, I still have that $1,000 credit limit, and now I'm using 60 or 70%. So my balance with them is at $600 or $700. Now my credit score is going to go down a little bit. It's going to, instead of me building a good reputation with them, I'm on what's considered tarnished. And the sad part about, I could still be making on-time payments. I could be making the minimum amount of payments. If it's, let's say, $20 is my minimum payment each month. But my usage for their liking that is higher than the 30%, it's still going to affect me in a negative way when it comes to my credit score.
I got a question.
Sure.
So how long does it take for your max that you can spend on the credit card to go up? So let's say you start with 1,000. How long does it take for it to go to like 3,000 or any balance above?
Now, that's all depending on the credit card company. Some of them have different rules. So some may do it. The main thing is they'll want to see a history with you. If you get a new card and they're starting it off, I'll give you a personal scenario that I had when I was trying to establish my credit. I had to take a secured loan, a secured credit card. So what I did was I took my $300 from the bank and I deposited my $300 into the account. That $300 became my limit. So I couldn't go above that 300. So what I did was I was utilizing my credit smartly. I charged something for, let's say, $50. I sent them the $50, paid it off in full. In the meantime, my $300 was basically gaining a small amount of interest in their account. So it took, I'm gonna say, between 6 and 8 months, somewhere around that one for that particular card. But like I said, they all have different rules. So I remember at the end of that 6 or 8 months, what they did was they mailed me back my 300 plus the interest and said, you have a good history with us. Here's your 300. Your interest, my credit limit at that point went up to 500. So I had to stay on my plan. I used it. I paid it off. I kept using it and paying off. And I didn't have to do this every month because I didn't want to lose track of it. But every other month or so, I would put something small on the card and I would pay it off. And I would think by the end of that full year, then the limit went up to 1,000. So, and it's when you have a card, it's no problem to contact us to see how often they review their history for credit limit increases. I probably wouldn't ask anybody before having them at least 6 months. 6 months, I think, is the minimum, at least in my understanding when I've talked to different creditors. But it's different rules for that. Any other questions?
Mr. Mario, Makai put a question in the chat. Do you start to get credit once you hit the age of 18?
You can. And it all depends now, because there's really no set age for you to start building credit. Because I know adults who were in their 30s who had never used a credit card, never taken a loan. So they'll have a history of different things, but it's going to be a minimal effect. So even at that age, if you want to be what's considered in the good credit, you'll have to make a plan to basically, you have to just make a plan to get an established credit. Because at some point we all become, consumers of credit. So really there is no age, no magical age. You can start it at 18 to make your plan, or you can do like the guy I knew who waited until he was in his 30s. I think he ended up doing it because his wife made him at that point. But a very good question. Any other questions?
I have a question, Mr. Mario.
Sure.
So, say you make a small purchase or whatever on your credit card, and you said you have to pay it back if you use it within that month period. How long should you wait before you pay it back? Like, if I have the money to pay it back, like the next day, could I pay it back the next day, or is it better to wait longer?
You could pay it off as soon as it shows up on your when you go online. If it's there, you don't have to wait. You can pay it. They're going to see that you used it and they're going to see that you paid it. There's no magic number that says, I need to wait 2 weeks or anything like that. You can pay it off as soon as you sign up online, and you'll look, as long as the charge is showing on your account. If for some reason your credit card takes 2 business days to get to show on your online account, then that's when I would do it. But as soon as you log in online and you see it, you can pay it. You don't have to wait.
Okay. Thank you so much.
Mm-hmm. Any other questions before we take our break?
I think there's a question in the chat. Athel was responding to a question or responding to a thought, but it says, I guess it's pertaining to children being added as authorized users to start building their credit. So he asked, so the children's credit score becomes dependent on the parent paying the bills on time. So he wanted to know, like, if a child is added as a authorized user, how that affects, I guess, the child's credit score.
Yeah, I didn't want to
Yes.
interrupt like the conversations.
Oh, no worries. No, and that's where we actually have a small segment on that. It's called piggybacking. So that's when you can help. And it doesn't have to be a child. It can be someone of any age who needs help with their credit. But now, mind you, when you do that, that's normally somebody who loves you and trusts you so much because they're adding you to their reputation. So if you were to you become like a co-signer or an authorized user on that card. So you doing something on that card affects them as well.
Oh, so the child
So
is allowed to use the credit card. Like,
yes, they
oh,
can let that young person be an authorized user, and his or her credit will be affected by what's happening with that account.
I got another question.
all right.
Sure.
Thank you.
Sorry, I thought you had it. So when can you become fully independent? Like take over the card?
Well, I don't know that you can fully take over the card because remember that's somebody else's card and you're an authorized user on it. I have not seen a scenario to where the person says, you know what, I'm not going to use this card anymore and it's 100% yours. I haven't seen that. I would say that's possible, just not probable. What normally would happen is once you build up enough credit and things like that with the piggybacking or secured loan, a secured card, you're going to get one on your own. So you're going to have one that's specifically in your name and nobody else is attached to it. And you're going to earn that because of the things that you've done or the people who you've been piggybacking on have done to help improve your credit.
I got another question. Sorry. So how do you open a credit card?
You said, how do you open a credit card?
Yeah.
Trust me, they're all over the place. And a lot of times they seek you out. They'll do mailings to your house. They come to your email. They come to your Facebook. They come to your Instagram. They come everywhere you are. If you're in a plane and you're flying, when I'm flying American Airlines, they say, "Hey, would you want to apply for our card?" They will come to you everywhere you are. So if you don't have a credit card, it's because you have said no. You're just choosing not to. That's the part of that. And sometimes it's good to say no because they will keep offering and keep offering and keep offering. So, and you don't need to overextend yourself. You don't need to say, okay, well, I'm going to apply for every card that they have out there. That's not going to be a good way to govern yourself when it comes to credit. You want to go about it smart. You want to have a plan in mind.
I have a question.
Sure.
What would you mainly use credit for? Like, do you really need to or no?
Well, the main thing that I use, and yes, I will tell you, certain large purchases that I needed my credit for, um, my house. I got a really good interest rate on my house. And it was because I had taken care of my credit. The house cost me what, 250,000. I didn't have that. I don't have $250,000 on me to say, okay, I don't need to use credit. I can just pay for this in cash. In Mario's perfect world, Mario has the 250,000 where I just go to the bank and say, here's all your money. But when I bought my house, when I bought my car, that Honda Civic, those are things that I had to take loans for. So I needed credit to get a better rate. Even when I've gone on vacation, some places I've rented cars, they want to see a credit card. Even if I have cash at that point, they want to see a credit card for me to be able to rent their car.
Dr.
But great
Mario,
question.
could you,
Yes.
since you're on the topic and she did ask an excellent question, could you touch also on credit um, purchase protection on credit cards? Like that's, I believe, one of the big benefits, purchase protection with a credit card versus if you were to pay cash for certain things.
That is a very good benefit. There are some purchases that you will make, and let's suppose for some reason you become disenfranchised with that purchase. It didn't function the way that you wanted it to function or the way that you thought it should function. And then you're having a dispute with trying to reimburse. Now, if you've paid cash for something, they have the cash, and it's a very hard way to go about it to get you any type of reimbursement. A credit card company actually helps protect you on some of that way. If you contact your company and say, hey, you know what? I purchased this, it malfunctioned, they're refusing to do it, they're refusing to give it back, your card may work with you and protect you. That's one of the ways that it offers protections. Um, there are a few ways with credit card protection that I like. Um, another one when I have, what was the personal one that I just had recently? I purchased. Oh, I purchased something online I bought, and it never came. It just didn't show up. I don't know if it got shipped to a wrong location or the people were just trying to scam me out of my purchase online. And I was able to, go to my cart and say, hey, you know what? I didn't get it. And I'm going to dispute that charge. Again, if it's something that I paid in cash, then it's very hard for me to get my money back on that protection.
Does debit have the same purchase protection, or is it just credit?
I'm sorry, repeat that.
Is it just are just credit cards the ones with purchase protection, or do debit cards also have the same benefit?
Debit cards do have some protection benefits as well. And we're actually going to talk about some of the differences between debit and credit cards because I don't want to give it away. But there is a slight difference to where debit cards don't help you build credit, but they do offer some of the protection that a credit card would offer you as well.
All right, thank you.
Mm-hmm. All right. It's 7:34. I want to take a short break. What are we going to come back? Let's give you, let's come back at, what is it? 11 minutes. So I like to do even numbers. 7:45. We'll do 11 minutes. So it's now 10. And then we will get started with the second half of this.
Welcome back, scholars.
Just 1 minute.
And Mr. Mario, you're muted, just so you know.
Okay, thank you.
Mhm.
Is everyone back or not yet? Not quite yet.
I think I just only heard one scholar said that they would be right back, but everyone else should be back.
Yeah, I'm here.
Okay, thank you.
I am going to share my screen and we'll get started with the second half. And presentation. Okay, so again with credit basics, we touched on already that 3-digit credit score. We already said it's ranged from 300 to 850. And that reputation, that's what the creditors are going to use to determine your reputation or your credit worthiness. So they use two different types of score. FICO, which is the more popular. There's also a Vantage scoring system. Now, the most known and the most popular one is the FICO one. So most of the places you go, from what I looked up, 90% of places use FICO, but there are the 10% that use Advantage. They still use the same things to weigh out your credit score, but it's good to know that there is a difference when somebody is approaching you and and they're saying you, hey, well, your credit score is this number. You can inquire as to if they're using a Vantage scoring system or if they're using a FICO. And when we get into the top three things of what's used for the FICO, I'm going to explain how Vantage just kind of flips around numbers 2 and 3. So one of the other things that I want to talk to you about is a hard credit inquiry. Remember when we talked about what's in your credit report, those credit inquiries, when you're asking for new lines of credit, when you're asking for a new credit card, or you're applying for a loan. Those are going to be what's considered a hard credit inquiry. One or two of them is not a horrible situation, but if the creditors look and all of a sudden in this 1 month you're applying, trying to get 6, 7, 8 new lines of credit, it's going to affect you in a negative way. So, and even when you open up, and this is something new that happened since 9/11, when you open up an account, let's say you go to a credit union or a bank and you just want to open up a savings account. So you're putting your own money into their bank, into their institution. They're going to verify you are who you say you are. They're going to do a hard credit inquiry, even on opening an account. So that's just something that everyone should be aware of when you're opening up accounts. Now, a soft credit inquiry, which is not going to affect your score, is pretty much something that you're going to do on your own when you're pulling your own credit to just do a checkup on yourself. Or if you are in an institution, let's say like a credit union, to where they allow you to run a quick check on your numbers to see what they deem your credit worthiness as. Those are going to be soft credit inquiries that aren't going to affect you the way a hard credit inquiry will. Now, here are the things that the way they affect when you're looking at your FICO. The main thing that they're looking at is your payment history. Because a lot of times when I was younger, people say, well, how do you get good credit? And it was, I just pay your bills. Well, that's part of it. That is the biggest part. 35% of what FICO looks at is your payment history. That next part is the amount that you owe. And remember, I talked about that 30% was like a magic number. That's also how much FICO uses when they're weighing it out. 35% is the amount of that you owe. So we want to stay, when I gave that scenario of, your credit limit is 1,000 and you want to stay below 300, that's going to affect that too. Your length of credit history, your new credit, and your credit mix. Now, on the Vantage scores, they'll flip around. They both weigh payment history as the heaviest one. But on the list, the length of credit history comes in as number 2 for Vantage, where the amount owed comes as number 3 with them. They kind of flip that around. I don't know why they do it, but that's the way Vantage do it. And you can see at the bottom how the scoring system is slightly different. So for FICO, if you have a 300 or 579, that's considered in the poor range. Where Vantage, you're going up to 600 and you're still in poor. For fair for Vantage goes up to 660, while 669, you're still in the fair. If you want excellent credit in FICO, you want to be above 800. Whereas in Vantage, 780 is giving you what they consider to be an excellent score. So they are slightly different. And there are, sure.
Sorry, I didn't know that you were continuing. It's just that, so do companies keep hold of like both scores? Like, are they interchangeable? Like when you switch out for companies and stuff?
They will, most companies will usually only use one or the other. So if they're using FICO, chances are they're not using Vantage. What will confuse people is that there are so many different variables to where you can go to a company for a house loan and they run your FICO score and it says, okay, you're at 750. And you can go somewhere else and you were looking for an auto loan. Because of the way they do the math, it comes up differently if you're asking for a house loan, if you're asking for a car loan, if you're asking to open up a new credit. So if someone is still using a FICO and they're looking at you for a car loan where you had 750 in this one company, they may say, oh, well, we have you at 770 or 730 or 740. It'll still be in that range, but because there are different variables for what you're actually trying to obtain, whatever is the loan or the service, they just have a different math, and it gets confusing. I can't remember how many math equations they said it is, but it is quite a bit. It's almost amazing that they have that many calculations to figure out this 3-digit score. But it should be somewhere similar and close. And this is why I say people should always look at their credit, because if you go to an auto place for a loan, if you're looking for a house and they're presenting you with something, that's not the time when you want to be surprised and be like, oh man, I didn't know I had these negative things on my history. No, you want to already be aware. You already want to be on the point to taking care of that. So you want to lessen the effect of the negative things so that what's showing up is your positive things. You have a good payment history. You're got that amount owed down below 30%, and you have a good length of credit history. Length of credit history is sometimes what I get asked about, what trips people up at times too, because I've had people who have an old credit card that they're not using as much. So they'll be like, I'm not using that. Maybe I should just cancel that one. Well, as you can see in this credit basics right here, the length of credit history on that is your third highest, what's going to affect your score. So if you have 3 credit cards and one of them you've had for 10 years, and then there's one you've had for 7 years, and then the last one you've had for 3 years. So the way they look at it, you have 20 years of history between the 3 credit cards. And they'll say, okay, so your average between those 3 is just under 7 years of history. So you decide, well, the one for that old one, I barely use it anymore. I'm going to cancel that one. So you cancel your longest standing history. So you're removing basically 10 years of your credit history from them. So now you've got the 7 and the 3. So now between the 2, they're saying, okay, your credit history is now 5 years. So it may not have as big of a negative effect, but the longer your history, the longer your good reputation is standing, that's the better chance you have of a positive effect. So when people are looking to cancel out cards, that's something they just want to be mindful of.
Oh, I see. And it is gonna be fast since like it's a small question. I'm pretty sure everyone already went through it, but are bigger purchases with a credit that like you pay off later gonna increase your credit score as compared to like smaller purchases or smaller bills, etc.?
It's really the amount of the purchase isn't going to be as effect as to what you do once it's on there. Now, let's take that scenario where you're paying it off. Let's suppose you've got that $1,000 credit limit, and wow, it was something that you wanted to buy, and it cost $700, and you put that $700, that large purchase, on that one card. Normally, as I said, we don't want to go over the 30%. Right now, we've used 70% of it. But let's suppose before the end of that month comes, you pay off all $700. So again, you're letting them know, even though you used it, you had it to pay off, and they're charging you 0% on your interest. So it's still going to show that, okay, when you're using this card, you're using it smart. You're not doing anything that you can't pay off within a month. So they can both have good effects on you as long as you understand how to pay it off quickly.
All right, thank you.
That's
I got a question.
Sure.
So the scoring system depends on which credit card company you're working with, right?
Well, it's really all depending on whether they're using FICO or Vantage. Because, like I said, they're going to use these things to build your credit score. But like I said, Vantage, the number 2 thing is going to be that length of credit history, and the number 3 is going to be the amount owed. So they flip it at the number 2 and 3 spot.
So what if you have one credit card with FICO and the other credit card is using Vantage? How would that work?
It's still going to be the same. Like, you'll just have a different number when you'll get to see that number on your credit report. Actually, when you run the credit report, those 3 bureaus, they're going to give you a FICO number. That's what they're going to give you. It's normally some sort of service or agency that when they're running it is when they're pulling up a Vantage number for you. Like if you go to the Honda dealer or something like that, and they're pulling a number, that's usually going to be where the difference lies.
Thank you.
Sure thing. So we want to talk about the different types of credit. Revolving credit, that's what people are most familiar with. That's normally your credit cards because they give you that maximum borrowing limit and you can charge up to that limit. The next one is a loan. That's an installment loan. That's a specific sum of money. So, like I said, when I bought my house, it was $250,000. That's the loan amount that I borrow, and I'm making my payments based on that 250,000. You know, student loans, car loans, mortgages. Charge cards are on there, but they're rare these days at this point. People are just going to, even the store credit cards, a lot of them are just going with like a typical Visa or something like that. And then you have your service, which is your gas and electric companies, things like that. These are types of credit. And when we went back and we looked at how the credit's affected, I'm going to go back real quick. The credit mix, that 10%, that's what it's talking about when do you have different types of credit? Do you have a revolving credit? Do you have an installment type of credit? Those things like that, it's like making a soup, you've got a good credit mix. So it shows a positive thing on you when you have those different types. Now, this is what I wanted to talk about with the credit cards versus the debit. The debit cards is money deducted from your bank account. You don't accumulate debt, and there's little to no fees. But one of the things with that is it won't help you build credit. And the reason for that is, remember, if we go back to the definition of credit, that's money that we're borrowing. So since you're not borrowing any money with the understanding that you're going to pay it back later, because when you're using a debit card, you're using the money that's coming directly from your bank account. So there's nothing for you to borrow from. Credit cards on the other hand, that's where you're borrowing the funds, and they'll help you build the credit. Just watch, the interest rates and things like that. And on that fourth note, that's the key right there. Too much spending can lead to debt. That's why we have to be educated consumers. We have to approach it very smartly. We have to have a plan anytime we're using our credit cards. And why do we need credit? We talked about it a little bit before, borrowing money for big purchases. And the lenders aren't the only ones who look at your credit. I've already told you with my employer, the U.S. Air Force, they looked at my credit company. They looked at my credit score. If you're renting, your landlord, the insurance companies, utility companies, all these people can look at your credit report, even used to verify your identity. Like I said, when you're opening up a bank account, it's very important. And that's why it's important to just understand what it is so that you'll understand how to utilize it for your best interest. Now, monitoring your credit. Now, I will say, when it comes to monitoring your credit, there are so many apps out there that you can monitor your credit with. I've only listed a few. One of the things I confess to people, when I'm looking at something to monitor my credit, the first thing I want to know is it free? I like free. I don't want to have to pay for anything more than I have to. So these are the four that I've listed up there. You know, Credit Sesame, Wallet Hub, Nerd Wallet, Credit Karma. And they all report to different parts of your credit bureaus. The top three, they report to TransUnion on a different time, monthly, daily, weekly. Credit Karma does Equifax and TransUnion, they do it weekly. The common thing with each of those, like I said, the top part, free. They give you personalized credit card offers because they know what your credit score is. They know what your credit report is. So they'll try to steer you towards credit cards that you have a higher chance of getting approved for. But again, that does not mean you should apply for everything that they're saying. Hey, John Doe, you have a very high chance of getting credit card A, B, C, D, and E. No, that doesn't mean if you apply for all those credit cards, again, you're not being smart about your credit. You want to use your credit smartly. So if there's a card that fits your purpose, or what you want to use it for, then you do your education into that, and that's where you try to lean towards. They have financial advice, again, the personal and loan finders, and most of them offer education classes. Credit is something we never stop learning about. Never stop learning about. It's evolving, it changes with different things. People want to add different rules to it. So it's always good to stay up on your credit.
I have a question.
Sure.
What does it mean by personal and auto loan?
A personal and auto loan finder. So an auto loan, just if you want to find the loan for your car that you want to purchase. A personal loan is basically a loan to where you're not going out and buying. You just want to learn. You want to get out and get a loan for miscellaneous stuff. It's not a house. It's not a car. Maybe you, and I'm not advocating for this, maybe you just wanted a loan because you were just going to redo your entire wardrobe. So it's not, let's say, backed with something, because when you buy a loan, when you buy a house or when you buy a car, they're saying, okay, if you don't pay back the loan, then a repo company will come and will take that car. The lien holders will come and will take that house, because we don't. A personal loan is normally just going by your reputation. It normally doesn't have anything that they're holding in place of that.
Like,
So those are just a couple of different types of loans.
okay. Thank
you.
Yep.
Mr. Mario?
Yes.
I had a question. It was, I think, 2 slides back maybe, where you talking about the 4 different types: revolving credit, installment, charge card, and services. So for services, would that be things like Netflix, or like if you have a subscription to something, would that be considered the service that you would put on your credit card, or is it like something else?
Now, those can do it. Now, Experian has a thing called Experian Boost. When we're going to talk about that a little later, with boosting your credit. Some of those things like Netflix and things like that, we can ask them to, because they fall under that type of service provider. They do. But they don't automatically go there for some reason. For some reason, we have to ask Experian to look at those items. Hey, I pay my gas bill every month. Hey, I pay my cable bill every month, and I'm using my checking account or something like that. And so they can go in and they'll look at it and be like, okay, you're paying Netflix regularly. So we're going to boost your score up because this is also a part of your reputation. But yes, those things fall under service providers as well.
Okay, thank you so much.
Mm-hmm. Annualcreditreport.com. And by the name, you can tell when you get it free, you get it annually. So I try to tell everybody at a minimum, you can go on annual credit report every year. If you want to make it every March or every April, whenever you want to do it, you can go in and get those credit reports because you don't want to be surprised. You can also get credit reports if you are denied credit. If you apply for a credit card and they told you no, then you can go ahead, you can get a credit report because you can see, well, let me look on there and see what's happening because, I need to make a plan to figure this out. Credit cards and things that you already have, they also have ways too where you can monitor your credit. Discover has one, Capital One, they call it Credit Wise. Different credit unions you're a part. Andrews and Navy Federal Credit Union. They have programs, whatever, when you're signed up with them where they monitor your credit. Again, I like free things. If it's something that you already have, I like to get dual usage out of it. So if I already have an account with Andrews Federal Credit Union, I want to utilize them to also monitor my credit. I don't want to have to pay for an additional service if I don't have to.
I have a quick question.
Sure.
We can go back a slide.
Mm-hmm.
Like it's about checking your credit score. So like could I like check my credit like every month, like in the same year for like every year to make sure that that my credit score is good and things like that?
You can. And if I was doing it every month, that's when I would be utilizing one of these free things. Like if I have Credit Karma that we had talked about, those things that monitor your credit, Nerd Wallet, those things right there, you can monitor your credit every month and it won't cost you anything. Now, if you want the full credit report, that's when you want to go to Annual Credit Report. And the thing about it, you want all three because remember when we looked at like Nerd Wallet and those things, some of them report to TransUnion, some report to Equifax, some report to Experian. So when you're doing every year, when you're checking, you want to get all three of your credit reports because you want to see what everybody has on you.
I have a question.
Sure.
So what are those three like credit reports? Like when you say three credit reports, like is it like annual and monthly, or is it just
No.
those two?
So Annual Credit Report, that's the website that you're going to go and you can get it free every year. The three credit reports, we're talking about the three credit credit bureaus, Equifax, TransUnion, and Experian. Because they're each going to have a separate report on you. Each one is going to look a little bit different. But remember, it's going to have that basic information in there. Your credit history, your personal information, the collection accounts, things like that. Those are all going to be the same, even though it may be lined up a little bit differently. And you just use those other things to monitor each month because you're trying to look for any changes, anything that sticks out to you. If all of a sudden, you're on Credit Karma and for some reason your credit score was 720 this month, and then come June, something happened which says, well, your score is at 650. Well, that right there should, set off some bells. Be like, okay, let me look into this. Let me see what happened. That's why we have to keep monitoring our credit, because that's going from month to month. Now, if you waited the whole year to do it and it was going down from that 750, you may get, and all of a sudden it's at 600 or 550. And then you're like, man, what happened?
Mm-hmm.
So stay up on it.
Mr.
These
Mario
are,
Athos has his hand raised.
oh, okay. What's your question?
I just wanted to confirm that, like, basically you're responsible for checking up on your own credit score, and that the whatever bank you're signed in with, they don't like do like credit reports on your account, or like they don't send an email or physical mail or nothing. Like you have to do it yourself.
Yes, you do it on your own, but some of the apps, they're constantly running. Only thing you have to do is sign in and click a button.
No, right, of course. I just wanted to make sure that like the banks that they have an account with, they don't do that for you, right?
No,
Whatever
it's
credit
going to
bank.
be up to you. Yes, that onus
Uh,
is on you to do it. Like I said, unless you're signed in online with that account, like if I sign in on Andrews Federal Credit Union, there's a button that I can go to, click it. But they're not just going to just do it. The only thing that keeps a running tab is things like Credit Karma, Credit Sesame, because those apps are specifically made to monitor your credit.
all right, thank you.
Yep. Here are some things we did talk about, the piggybacking already when we were talking about establishing your credit and building your credit. You know, when you're applying those secured accounts, I gave you the example. That's what I had when I was starting out with building my credit. You know, and those monitoring apps, they can help you. Find loans or credit cards that you have a high chance of approval for. So if you're into those, then you can do your investigation too. You don't just have to take their word for it, because like I said, they may offer you 10 of them. You don't need to apply for 10. Do your homework, check it out, and see which one suits your need better. Now, when you're looking to improve your credit, the first step you have to do is pull your credit report, because you can't start making a game plan if you don't have the information of what's in your credit report. And that's why that second bullet is not information is in all reports when it comes to Experian, TransUnion, or Equifax. So that's why it's so important to pull all three every year. But that first step is key. You need to pull the report, then you can start making a plan. Keeping that usage under 30%. And I always put this note in there because there are credit repair companies, and I say be wary of them, because sometimes they will prey on people. Because I'm in the military, I'll get emails that say, hey, for veterans, we can repair your credit in 3 weeks. It'll just cost you this amount of money. It's two reasons why I'm wary of those companies, because sometimes they don't do what they say they're going to do. And like I said, I don't like to have to pay for things that I can do on my own. It may take some work, but you can improve your credit yourself as long as you have the game plan, which starts with step one, pulling your credit report, paying your bills, keeping that usage under the 30%. And if there is something, when you pull your credit report and you look on there, it's some information that's not you, you can file an online dispute that make it so easy. If you sign on to Equifax and you say, hey, this information isn't me, all it takes is a few clicks of a button, you typing in the reason why you're disputing that information. I never lived in Virginia. This is not me. They have 30 days to respond to your online dispute. If they don't, if they don't respond in those 30 days, then they have to remove that information from your report. And I like to put, this is if you were old school like me and you wanted to send it a full letter to them, this is the information you would want to include in your dispute letter. You want to know, who you are, your date of birth, your address, some information like your social, your account numbers of the information that you're trying to dispute. But it's so much easier to do it online because I tell you, it's clicks of a button. They have it there. They try to make it easier for us. But again, if you're doing old school and you were looking for the actual addresses, this is where you would send them out to. But again, I would lean towards the online way. It is so much easier for us. Takes a whole lot less work. One of the things I know we are getting close to the end. I'm sorry, guys, but I definitely don't want to miss out on telling you about establishing your business credit. Because what happens is when you're starting a business, your business doesn't have any credit. So what do you think they have to go on when you're trying to establish your business credit?
Your personal credit?
Ding, 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 ding. That is it exactly. So all those things that we talked about for, learning about your personal credit and things like that, they bring you here. They bring you right here because you're trying to establish your business credit. And the first thing they want to look at, well, we don't have anything. Mario, how is your personal credit? And these are just a few of the things that when you're trying to establish your business, these are some of the things you're going to need, just a small little checklist for you. Your business name, business address and email, your federal EIN number, the DUNS number, that's going to be for your business credit reports. So this is just a small thing, but the main takeaway I want you to remember from this is that your personal will lead you to your business.
So Mario, I have a question then. If we have no personal credit information prior to making a business, do we have to make a personal credit line or get a credit card to have proof of identity or something?
Well, they're going to run when you open up anything, whether you're going to open up because the business, when you're opening up that business fund, they're going to run something on you basically to establish you are who you say you are. So whether they find it even if it's not a lot, they're going to find something. So it's all dependent upon you of how established you want that to be. If you basically have a minimal amount of a footprint out there to where you've only, paid some service providers and things like that, and your credit score is, let's say, around the 600 to 650, that's one effect. But if you have established and you're using your credit in that very educated way, and you're in that excellent fund, that 800s, it makes things easier for you and potentially for your business.
Okay, thank you.
Mm-hmm. I believe y'all talked about some savings funds, but these are just some ideas when you're trying to build up your savings. There's a money challenge. You can do $1 a week. $1 a week, you've got $52 saved, at the end of the year. It may seem not like a lot, but you keep building that up. You keep building that up. The money challenge where you increase it $1 each week, then it becomes a little bit more challenging because, week 1 is $1, week 2 is $2. And at the end of the year, now you've saved almost $1,400. Sometimes you don't have to have a plan like that. I kind of do a mix of it where you put your money into a change jar and you just save it for a year. Then you can take it someplace and deposit it in your savings account. So we are at the end. And this is any questions? Because I know we have a scenario. I'm sorry, something to fill out at the end of this. Any questions from me before we start?
Sure.
I would like to thank you for your attention and your participation. It was a pleasure having you all here.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Mr. Gray. And that was just fantabulous. I learned something new. I did not know the average score for 2023 US citizens was 715. So, like I said in the beginning, we always learn something new from Mr. Gray. So, thank you so much. That was a wonderful class. And thank you to the scholars. You were all very much engaged and participated. So, it was a very robust, interactive class. So I'm going to share the link to our post test so you can go ahead and log into that. I already see one of you in there. So we'll do this really quickly and then we will jump into the survey and then we will be all set. Oh, Savon, your mom enjoyed the class as well. Oh.
She loves everything when it comes to credit. That's her thing.
That's so wonderful. Awesome. Well, thank you to your mom for being here. All right, let me click enter and we will jump into the first question. Remember, the questions have to be correct and the fastest answered to get on that scoreboard. All right, that is true. Yes. The understanding of credit is based upon the understanding that you will pay later. Okay. Okay, what are the 3 credit bureaus? Is it Equifax, FICO, Experian, FICO, TransUnion, Experian, or Equifax, Experian, and TransUnion? Yes, the last one. All right, the board changed a little bit. Okay, name 3 items in your credit report. We have credit history, public records, consumer reports, medical background, credit history, public reports, receipts, cash flow, consumer reports.
Oh, I already know I messed up. That sucks.
All right, great job. Okay, more movement on the board. Question number 4. How often can you get a free credit report? How often? Okay, annually. Good job. Ooh, it's really close tonight. Wow. Okay, last question. What is the first step to improve your credit score? Count your credit cards, know how much debt you are in, or retrieve your credit report. Ooh, retrieve your credit report. I know Mr. Gray said that like towards the end of the class too. So I guess the key word for this question, scholars, is first step. So it's not that, knowing how much debt you are in is not a part of the step of improving your credit score, but this specifically focused on the first step. So congrats to the one scholar who got that correct. So let's see where we are on the board.
Head.
Now, by process of elimination, who is Ted? Because I don't know. Is that Nina?
No,
No,
it's
Nina's
it's
on the
me.
board.
It's
Oh,
because when you started, I didn't see the link yet. So when I clicked, it gave me a name. So
okay.
N-
Savon, congratulations.
Yeah, my name was Beyonce for like half of the game. It was hilarious.
Oh, okay. I totally missed that. All right. Well, thank you all for being here tonight. Let me just drop the survey link in the chat for you. Please do not exit until we get one of those for you. And thank you once again for your participation and engagement. Thank you to Mr. Mario for this wonderful class, for our scholars, such valuable, purposeful information. And he's here too. If, as you're filling out your survey, you have additional questions, I'm sure he'll be happy to answer them.
Yes, yes, I will. Shoot, even if you want to email me afterwards, I'm open to answer emailing questions.
Mr. Mario, I was going to ask you, with such great information, I'm wondering what your thoughts would be on maybe like a one pager, like just some facts we can share in the Google Classroom. Do you feel like that's something you might be able to support putting together and we can put that in a Google Classroom for the scholars to refer to?
I
Okay,
definitely can. Yes, yes, I can.
awesome. Thank you. All right, scholars, so you heard it here tonight, so look out for that. All right, I see 5 responses so far. Go ahead, Nina.
Thank you. I was gonna say, for the work, is it in the classroom, in the Google Classroom?
The alignment assignment for Miss C, you mean?
Yeah.
I don't believe it's in the, Miss C can answer that, but I don't believe that it is.
No, I've emailed that actually about 2 or 3 times. I've emailed that out to you guys. You want to check your email and see if you have it, Nina?
Yeah, let me check because I checked it and I didn't see anything. But dude, should I search up your name?
It'll say, and you'll probably see intermetrics. That
Intermetric.
is what you'll probably see. You'll see intermetrics or you'll see my name.
Miss C, I have a question about if we were gonna get the actual score back because I remembered you saying that you would send them to us, but I never got the email with like the score.
Okay. I'll resend it to you, Savon.
Thank you. And also, is it okay for us to leave when we're done with the course evaluation?
Yes, yes, you're welcome to leave. Thank you all for being here. Next class is next Tuesday. That is business writing with Miss C. As she shared, if you haven't done your alignment assessment, please do that. Have a wonderful weekend. Thank you again to Mr. Gray. And yeah, you're welcome to leave once you submit your survey.
Good
Wait,
night,
I think
everybody.
it's 14 pages, right?
Sorry, what was that?
For Miss C, it's 14 pages, right? Okay, okay, I got you. I'll submit it tonight.
Oh,
Okay.
Miss C, you're on mute. Miss C, you're muted. Oh, there you go.
Thank you. It's not 14 pages to take it.
Oh. It says
Um,
submit 14. The DIS index.
Yes, you're right. Okay.
Okay,
I
okay.
changed